Nettie Sachs, my grandmother, although not a suffragette, there is no doubt that her attitude and resistance to the role of women in society would have put her in good company in the women's movement in America, led by Susan B. Anthony. Nettie and Susan's lives overlapped, and I'm sure she was aware of the fight for women's rights in America. Nettie's resistance to the norm started early in her life and never stopped. Nettie Sachs was born in Lithuania, Russia in 1885. Little did she know she would be a role model in the fight for women's rights. It started early in her life when she refused to follow the dress code demanded by the cultural norm of all black dresses for women. Her father, a tailor for the military, would have leftover scraps of red cloth, which Nettie used to adorn her plain black dress, unheard of in her little shtetl in Lithuania. She fought the establishment that prohibited girls from learning in the yeshiva, a school only for boys. Girls studied homemaking, not the Talmud. Her desire to learn what was happening in the yeshiva and what the boys were learning led her to challenge the establishment and trouble for Nettie. She did not understand the repercussions of caught breaking this sacred rule. She dressed in boys' clothing and went to the yeshiva. She was posing as a relative to one of her friend's brothers. When her crime was exposed, it led to severe consequences for her family and their status in the community. With the death of her father, Nettie was obligated to find a husband to support her widowed mother. Women had little means to earn any income at that time and had to rely on their husbands. At her wedding, at the tender age of 13, she again broke the rules and lifted her veil at the wedding ceremony. She made the visitors gasp when she danced with men other than her husband. Was she a free spirit, or did she just not see the reason for the separation between the sexes? Her actions spoke louder than her words. Arriving in America in the 1890s as a widow, losing her husband in a pogrom in her shtetl in Lithuania. Here she experienced more freedom for women than in Russia. It was still a perilous journey in America. As a beautiful immigrant woman, she escaped being sold into prostitution by the New York mob. It was only by coincidence and a series of fortunate circumstances that she escaped the fate of other women in that period. Nettie knew education was the key to her success in America. Using her womanly charms and the help of a lecherous New York politician, she was accepted to the pharmacy school of New York University. She was only one of 2 women in her class. To prevent her sponsor's further advances, she married her second husband. She again needed a man to fight the system. She graduated pharmacy school in 1904, and she and her husband moved to St. Louis, Missouri. She became the first woman pharmacist in St. Louis and had her diploma mounted on the wall in the pharmacy. In St. Louis, at the Louisiana Exposition, she reconnected with her future third husband, a medical student, also a lieutenant for Emma Goldman's crusade for a new social order. Emma, a crusader for women's rights, believed women should marry for love and not be required to enter into an arranged marriage. It was in St. Louis she sought her first divorce. This was extremely difficult for women at the time. Her husband, also a pharmacist, was addicted to cocaine, and with the help of witnesses, she was granted a divorce. She left St. Louis, marrying her third husband, the medical student, and moving to Illinois. After his death, Nettie had to operate several pharmacies and manage their property. Owning property and entering into contracts without a husband's consent was unlawful in America in the early 1900s. This all took place before women had the right to vote and became very difficult legal maneuver. Her marriage to her fourth husband, a doctor heading off to World War I, was more of a convenience to allow her to conduct business. When he returned from the war, he knew his exposure to mustard gas was a death sentence and wanted to grant Nettie a divorce. He felt it best that he give Nettie a chance for a more normal life. Obtaining a divorce in Illinois was very difficult even after World War I. Even with him on her side, they had to fake the reasons and pay people to testify to false statements to secure the divorce. In the end, it may have been unfortunate that Nettie was such a good businesswoman, as she attracted envy from all, especially men, who could not understand a woman with money and freedom. Using all her skills, getting an education, having 5 husbands and 6 children, she lived a life only few could imagine. Her achievements led to her untimely murder at age 37, having lived in America for only 25 years. Nettie died on February 15, 1923, the same day, but not the year that Susan B. Anthony was born. A coincidence? I think not.